right. So here today with Don Tobul, veteran of the Army, and I'm gonna butcher this. Licensed professional clinical counselor. Is that correct?
You must be Navy or a fast learner.
Awesome, awesome. Well, here today to talk about Don and what he's been doing since he's been in the service, his business that he has, just really interesting model. But Don, I'll let you introduce yourself, and if you could share a few fun facts as well.
Yeah. So like I said, Don Tobul, licensed professional clinical counselor, out here in Cleveland, Ohio. And basically what I do is I use hydroponic farming and urban agriculture as a platform for mental health and workplace training for disabled veterans. So got into that space because being an Army veteran myself, I realized that transitional period in between service and civilian life can be difficult. Not everybody's exactly sure of what their path should be or could be. And so the real motivation behind my business is to help veterans figure that out. Government puts a lot of money, a lot of training into individual people who serve to get them trained to do their military occupational specialty. But then on the back end, that same untraining doesn't necessarily happen. And so I think
That's
that it's
right.
up to us as a community to come together and help to absorb that and help these men and women figure out exactly what it is that their track is going to be. So that's kind of how I got into this space. Being in the military again, I pursued my master's degree in mental health counseling because I wanted to work with individuals who are maybe struggling with PTSD or other mental health issues or emotional issues, specifically within that veteran demographic. And so that's why I pursued that master's degree. A former teacher, I taught high school. So my undergraduate degree is in education. I taught chemistry, physics, and ninth grade science for a period of 5 years. And during that time is when I pursued that master's degree to kind of transition it or switch gears from that employment. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of how I got to where I'm at. Fun facts, I guess. Number one is chemistry and physics teacher formerly, right?
That
Um,
makes sense. It definitely makes sense to some degree. Okay.
So yeah, a lot of people ask me what my background is. Well, I used to teach chemistry and physics. They're like, no way. Well, yeah. So there is that. Um, Another fun fact. This isn't something I share with everyone. I know this is going out to a large crowd, right?
Yep.
But I used to be a Girl Scout, right? Yeah,
What?
see, everybody learned
I didn't even know
something.
that was possible.
Well, so here's the thing. In order to be employed by the Girl Scouts, you have to actually take the oath as a Girl Scout. So I did maintenance and I did some high ropes training and confidence course stuff with the Girl Scouts. So in order to be an employee of the Girl Scouts, you also have to become one formally. So combat veteran, former teacher, chemistry, physics, and Girl Scout. So
Wow, that's awesome. So that's really, were you also in the Boy Scouts at some point when you were
I,
younger?
I was not.
Okay.
So yeah, not a Boy Scout, but definitely a Girl Scout. So it's an interesting thing for sure. But
Wow.
yeah. Oh, I might be one of the only combat veterans that is also a Girl Scout and also a male. So I don't know. We'll have to
Well,
look that one up.
when you explain it though, it makes sense. I think you need to embody the core values of the Girl Scouts in order to truly be a part of the organization. So, I
Yeah.
mean, makes sense to me. And
Yeah. And it's such a great organization too. I mean, when you're standing 30 feet up in the air with these girls who are strapped into harnesses and they're about to navigate some kind of high element, you're doing mental health up 30 feet in the air. And so,
it's
that
true.
experience really, I think, shored up my ability to do this thing here too. So it's
Wow.
funny how like you start to engage in these avenues, throughout life and all these different experiences and how they little bits and pieces from those experiences can lead you to where you're at. And you don't even intentionally do it sometimes. So it's pretty cool.
And there's definitely crossover. You definitely use those experiences from the past when you're getting into something new for sure. That's all you've got, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, teaching. I mean, if
yeah,
you can teach chemistry and physics to a high school student, you could sell water to a whale, right? And so
yep,
it's sales, it's interpersonal communication, it's education, and I think that that's at the core of what all of this is. So
certainly, and that's a lot to unpack there. So you it kind of reminds me of Breaking Bad a little bit, but in a
yeah,
good way. So it's like Breaking Good.
my
Uh,
students called me Walter for a while. Yeah, they thought that I was just this crazy guy that made stuff I shouldn't be making in my basement, but it is what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, and so now you're growing vegetables. You're growing. You're big into agriculture in a very special way.
Yep.
And so yeah, tell me a little bit more about the lettuce and the
Yeah.
vegetables that are growing in your facility right now.
Well, oddly, that also did start in my basement. When I first got into this, so I grew up as a part of 4-H. So I was involved with 4-H. I had animals, and I got into some photography early on in life. And so I've always had this kind of interest in agriculture and farming and whatnot. But after deployment and after my wife and I got married, and as things kind of settled down a little bit, like there was still this kind of piece that was missing. And so I asked my wife, I said, hey, what do you think about me building this thing in the basement to grow lettuce and raise fish, and we could eat the lettuce and eat the fish? She looked at me, she's like, do whatever you want to do. I was like, there's no way she's going to say yes to this. And when she said I could do it, then I had to say, okay, here we go. And I actually built the first, it was an aquaponic system at the time. So in the aquaponic system, you use fish and fish poop, and that fish pooped in water nutrients the plants, right? So
Right?
you have like basically three organisms that are all living together. And so that's kind of how I started out with this in just a small hobby basement kind of fashion, right?
Wow.
And so as I'm working through that, I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. You know, it's problem-based learning. You got to solve plumbing, you've got to solve electric, you've got to do some science with the agricultural components of that as well. And so as I'm doing it, as I'm problem solving, I'm like, man, this is kind of therapeutic too.
Yeah.
So I was already done with my master's degree in mental health counseling, and so I said, well, if this can work for me, it could maybe work for somebody else. And so there's really like two major components to my business, which is the mental health and workplace training, but then there's that agricultural piece. And kind of like the aquaponic system where you have these different organisms living together, if one doesn't work, the other doesn't work. I needed to kind of unroll my business that same way. So I had to make sure that if I'm going to be growing produce, that produce had somewhere to go. So
Right.
I developed the system that I built into a more of a pilot system to see if there was a market out, and I kind of tested the market to see if people were interested in buying, hydroponic produce or aquaponic grown produce at that time. And there was, people couldn't get enough of it. So I said, this part of the business will definitely work, hands down, easy. And so during that time, I was actually employed at the VA as a vocational rehabilitation counselor. So
Yep.
I had this weird, like, potential conflict of interest if I was to unroll the counseling piece at that time. So I broke my business apart at that point to focus only on the agricultural piece. And so there was
Got it.
no conflict of interest. I did that for 2 years, got my feet underneath me with the agricultural piece. And then I had a kind of a planned resignation from my job so that I could leave the VA, not have to worry about conflict of interest, and then start to see individual clients for mental health and workplace training. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of how it all unrolled or unfolded. It went from hobby to some weird type of therapy to providing food to the community that was hyper local, grown within the community that it was being sold, into this other workplace training and mental health capacity.
That's awesome. And so that's it, so you have and I'm sorry for the horns in the background if you can hear it. I don't know. Somebody's really angry outside right now. So yeah, I hope it's
Anger
not
is a valid emotion, so
yeah. but bringing that all together then. So um, right now, you're focused on helping people with mental health, helping especially veterans with mental health, and also workplace development. How many people are you helping currently with the workplace in the workplace side?
So that's actually been the hardest piece of all of this. And so maybe I'll just continue the story I was just telling. So
Yeah,
my
absolutely. Yeah,
my planned resignation was Friday the 13th, which was in March of 2020. So if we backtrack and we rewind the reel a little bit, what happened on March 16th of 2020? The entire state of Ohio shut down due to COVID. So I literally quit my job on Friday, and then Monday, everything in the state shut down. So it was kind of this classic adjust on the fly, head on a swivel kind of mentality that we learn in the military. Say, okay,
yeah,
things aren't going to go according to training or according to expectations, so how do you adapt to this, and how do you overcome this initial obstacle, which happened to be hour one, day one? And so it is what it is. So at that point, I, I probably reeled a little bit, kind of sat down, jotted this tentative new plan out, because at that point, the VA who I had intended to market my workplace training services to, were not sending any veterans out into the community to do any kind of in-person training. So that overnight uh, completely evaporated that potential client pool that I had. So
oh,
I went back and forth in my head. Okay, the produce is really successful. I can do that. I could scale that up. I can make that work, because at that point in 2020, I was literally selling every plant that I was growing, because people got small during that period.
yeah,
They wanted to buy local. They wanted to support local. They wanted to know who was handling their food and how. And so
right,
that that really was an ignition to that component of my business. But the problem with that was, in my business model or my business plan, the agriculture piece is a break even. So the farm and the farm operations support the farm, and that's it. It keeps the lights on, but it doesn't help me pay the bills at home. So
right.
it became a mental health counseling business by default, because we could do this. Then we could do the remote mental health types of sessions. And
Right.
so I fell back to that license, which allowed me to do the mental health treatment with individuals. um, and that was good, but that's not the ideal track that my business was supposed to be on. And so
Gotcha.
I'm still trying to get a foothold with the VA, and to build that workplace training component. It's government stuff, so it's
Yeah.
it's slow uptake, and I'm trying to tap some congressional representation to help put optics on this. And things like what you're doing, Nick, help to get this story out, to say there are people that are out here doing good things, doing interesting things, doing innovative things, to
Yeah.
support the the connection between the community greater and veterans. And I think that that's what my business really does, is it creates the connection between the veteran who's going through some kind of training and the greater community to help them.
Got it. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, so like now it's so you obviously you have a lot of patients that you're working with as well, or clients that you're working with.
Right.
Um, and are you still taking on new clients as well for that part of your business?
Unintentionally, I've I had a couple different contracts with some organizations, and I'm completely booked up, like right now,
Yeah.
with mental health clients. But one of these contracts that I'm working on, for some reason, my accepting new patients toggle switch got moved to on. And
Oh,
so I didn't do it, but it just happened. And so I had a couple of people reach out. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to turn you away, so we'll make it happen. So
right.
that's how it works. But
And I'm sure you work with or you're at least connected into a network of other people like yourself that if somebody comes to you and they're like, "Hey, I need some help,"
Yeah.
you know who to get them to. You can
Yeah.
absolutely, get them connected with the right person.
Yeah, so I'm a part of the VA Community Care Network. So the Community Care Network, I don't know if you're familiar with it. Basically, if the VA can't provide a service or they can't provide a service within a reasonable time or respondent burden to the individual veteran, then they can shop that service out to specific community providers. Now, the community
Got
providers
it.
have to demonstrate, that they are, qualified to do the work that they're doing and make sure that they're going through specific training to the veteran community. And so I'm fortunate to be on that list of community care providers. So I get clients from all around the state. So Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati, all of those areas. But oddly enough, Cleveland is still one that is slow on the uptake with community care.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And so all Ohio. Anything outside of Ohio?
Yeah, my license is limited to the state of Ohio.
Got it.
So I have had people like from West Virginia that I have had to turn away just because the limits of my license.
Makes sense. I'm sure that's not cheap to get licenses out of state as well.
Yeah, a lot of times it's grad school or additional courses, and I mean, to be honest with you, I don't have time to pursue that right now.
But there's plenty of other people like
Yeah.
you doing the good work
Yep.
in those states as well, which is great to be a part of that network.
I would be interested too, like, and maybe if you do post this on the social media, if there's
Yeah,
other counselors watching this, like if you're a veteran and you are a mental health provider, like I want to know because I want to be able to connect veterans that are outside of my area of coverage to people that can get them help.
I'll definitely make sure I note that in the in the main part of the post that you're looking to network with those other professionals outside of Ohio, especially and within Ohio, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah, for
to
sure.
help. Just, it's like an army of good in that sense as well.
Yeah.
So, wow. So then I guess what's the next major step for you now then? It sounds like you've got some things that you're working on. I guess what's um the ideal situation that you'd like to see for your business?
Yeah, the ideal is what we set out to do 3 years ago now, and that's that workplace training and
Yep.
getting uh, a better relationship with VBA, the Veterans Benefit Administration here in Cleveland, to provide that workplace training and those assessments for veterans, so that we could say, yeah, this veteran, he has the skills or she has the skills needed to benefit from a program that's designed to help them return to work in a suitable type of position, right? And
Yep.
so that I think is done. It's very high touch, it's hands on. That you have to work with that individual veteran day in, day out to say, okay, can they show up? Can they show up on time? Can they do what they're asked when they're asked? And the big one in that is, can they play nice with others? And so if they can do all of those things, then I could say, hey, VA, this guy or this girl is squared away. There's no doubt in my mind that they can benefit from additional training to help them get back into some kind of suitable work. And that's
Got it.
that's ideally what we are pushing for, and that's where the congressional representation has come through for us too.
Got it. And what types of tasks or what types of training would you be providing to these individuals when they come to your facility? Um, like what types of things would you be
Mhm.
showing them?
Yeah, so I mean, it can be anything from agricultural base, which is like kind of in our neighborhood, right? Up
Absolutely.
up to like maybe doing social media types of things.
Oh yeah.
It could be clerical, it could be even custodial. I mean, there's a breadth of different things that they can be doing here. But what we'll really tend to focus on is these agricultural types of tasks. And so the idea isn't necessarily that every veteran that comes to obtain services from us is trying to get into the agricultural world, right? But there are tasks throughout this day that are good measures of their ability or inability to do certain things. So
Sure.
we'll look at one of the things that we do every single week. It's taking like a peat moss plug and putting 200 of them into a tray.
Yeah.
That is a monotonous, arduous task for some, and it is a really good task because it shows the amount learned. So if I can say, okay, fill this 200 cell tray with these little plugs, and on day 1, it takes them 20 minutes, and on day 10, it takes them 10 minutes. Well, and that's, a 50% decrease in time. So this person obviously is learning something about their process and how to go about it in a more streamlined way. So we have quantifiable, measurable data that we can sample from any given task that's going on here around the farm. Seeding is another one. You take those small plugs that have a tiny hole in the top, and you put one little seed into each one of them. So fine motor skills. So there's an occupational therapy type of component to all of this too.
Certainly.
If it's taken them a long time, if it's taken them an hour to fill 200 cells, then maybe they aren't going to be as able to do some of these fine motor type of tasks, right? And so everything that we do here is for a reason. There's a purpose to it. It's not just online training. It's not just punching numbers. It's not just showing up, but everything that we do has an underlying reason behind it. And so that's, I think, what is one of our key differentiators. Number one, that, we're veteran owned, we're veteran centric, and we're veteran led, but it's not just rote types of tasks. We're not just doing it for no other reason. We're doing it for some reason.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, you were talking about the plugs. I remember coming into your facility, going into it's like a storage container, right? It's like a big storage container.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember seeing just rows and rows and rows in the walls where these seated peat moss plugs go into,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all just they're plumbed with some type of watering and feeding system, and they just sprout lettuce and amazing things just come right. And we're talking about real lettuce. We're not innuendo for marijuana or anything. This is lettuce. This
Right.
is lettuce that you eat.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just thought it was what types of things are growing in there right now?
In there right now, we have 9 different kinds of lettuce. We have arugula. We have 2 kinds of basil. During the off season, we kind of dial things back a little bit, just because we don't have the farmers market to get some of these more niche products out. So lettuce is our staple. Again, we're selling everything that we're growing as far as lettuce. Basil can be hit or miss week to week. But people love getting fresh basil in the wintertime. So if I do have extra, I usually hook people up with a little bit of extra basil. So that's our key elements in the farm right now. We just got a smaller system that we're going to start doing microgreens again. And as we get into the first weeks of the farmers market here in May, I hope to have some starter plants available for people who are looking to do their own gardens. So
Gotcha. Okay. And I remember you gave me this like spicy mix.
oh yeah, that's the microgreen. Yeah.
Was that the microgreen? Okay, I
Yep.
wasn't sure if that. I know arugula can get a little spicy too
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, we're known for our spicy arugula. People have even said that it's hot and it's too much, but a lot of people really like that. They like a little bit of fire.
And that's huge. I mean, so, and I know what is the process for somebody that wants to purchase your product directly from your facility? And you're located in Eastlake, Ohio.
Yep.
How would somebody go about buying this product from you during normal operation?
Yeah, if you're tech savvy, you can go to our website. That's odgreens.com. You click on shop, and you can basically see anything that we have in stock at that moment and add it to a cart, pay online. I'll tag it, I'll bag it, and it'll be here once you get the email that says it's ready to pick up. So you come in here, you go into our waiting room, there's a bunch of coolers, and you find your tag and you grab your stuff, and it's self-serve. So if you are not tech savvy, then you can just show up, and there's a cooler out in our entryway that has all of our extras, and you can grab it, cash box behind you, drop cash. If you have to steal it, then go ahead. I guess
Honor
you need
system,
some food.
baby.
Yeah, if you need some food, then take it. But if not, please pay what we're asking for it. But yeah, you can just show up and grab whatever you need and be on your way. Because again, if I'm working with veterans or whatever in the farm or in an individual session, I can't always come out to help to assist. And that's where maybe some of these workplace training veterans will be able to fill that void. Just again, creating connections with individuals as they're showing up to pick up their produce to help them out.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, I could see the use there and how that would help you and also
Yep.
help them build
That's
those
customer
skills.
service, right? Yeah, and interpersonal
Absolutely,
communication skills.
for sure. And how many I guess how many bags of this product would you say you're able um to produce or to have available on like a weekly basis? Or how long does it typically take if I ordered something today?
Yep.
When would I have it available?
We try to get everything filled within 24 hours. That can be dependent on a lot of things. We typically do our big harvest on Fridays. So we have something called a CSA. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Basically, it's a subscription for produce. So it's a pay in advance. You get 12 weeks consecutive, and it's a standing order for 12 weeks. So your lettuce or your produce, whatever it is that you're picking up, will be tagged and bagged on Friday. You come on Friday. And if you can't get here on Friday, then you come on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday the next week and you pick it up.
That's
And
awesome.
so that's another potential option for people who don't want to necessarily get online every week and order. You just have that standing order, right?
Right. I
So
think that's really awesome that you have that kind of automation built in and the ability for people to come and grab this. I mean, I'm thinking about I can go to the supermarket, I can grab it there,
mhm,
but I've got to worry about people like grabbing the lettuce and stuff before I
yeah,
do. It's just out in the open. There
yeah,
could be insects on it.
yeah,
But in your facility, you don't have to use any pesticides, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Most of the pests are born and bred in the dirt, and so since we don't use dirt, we don't have to worry about most pests. There are always anomalies. There are some things that can happen, pathogens and pests that get into anywhere. But
Sure.
for the most part, if we do have anything like that, we're using organic means. We've used ladybugs to help mitigate pest issues. We
Oh yeah.
use like hydrogen peroxide, which is another great organic rated type of um, fungicide. So whenever possible, we take the least uh, invasive means possible, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's yeah, I just loved being able to go in there. You've got that atmosphere controlled environment. You've got the ability to create yeah, you've got the ability to create what is out in the natural world, but
Yeah.
inside of an environment that you control.
Yeah.
And that's just it's an incredible that you're able to do as much as you
Yeah.
do with your operation. So
Yeah.
is there
And to your point too, like
yeah.
when people walk into the farm, like it's pretty cool to watch their response or their reaction. And I catch myself doing it even, almost 4 years later.
Yeah.
Um, it's just this smile that comes over your face. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, you don't see this every day. This isn't something that I anticipated when I walked into this shipping container inside a warehouse in Eastlake, Ohio.
Right.
I joke to some of my customers that, you know, Cleveland isn't necessarily a destination vacation spot, but at OD Greens, it's 65 and sunny every single day.
That's
So
right.
even today, I'm in like a t-shirt and shorts, and this is how I go to work every day, which is pretty cool too.
That's
So
right. And you walk in there, and I know that you've got the lighting system. There's some kind of ventilation going on.
yep. Oh yeah,
Um,
it's high tech over there
yeah.
inside the farm, and uh, like probably 9.5 people out of 10 comment on the smell as they walk in. They're like, "Man, it smells good in here. It smells
Fresh,
like,
man.
yeah, it smells fresh. It smells earthy. I mean, it's drinking oxygen straight from the source, basically. So
Yes.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good place to be if you want to breathe some fresh air, that's for
Yep,
sure. So
yep.
anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure the world knows about you, about your business, and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, we've got a couple of interesting opportunities coming up here too. We've got some partnerships with Central State University and Lakeland Community College. We're doing
Oh,
a fast track farmer program. And so it's going to be a 12-month rolling educational program designed to help veterans who are interested in getting into the agricultural space. Uh, Basically to afford them the platform and the knowledge to maybe pursue hydroponics without that initial capital investment risk. So They'll learn everything from, you know, seeding and planting to water quality, but then there's also like a business base to it too. So how do I write a business plan? How do I make the financials work out? What can I expect? And so that'll be a 12-month rolling. I think we're set to do it for 3 years. There was another grant provided by Cleveland Foundation to Lakeland that's going to help absorb some of the costs of the initial purchases for materials and supplies and equipment. So the idea is that we get the educational piece at Lakeland, who will be our kind of like host facility. And then the veterans who are participating in that can come here to OD Greens and have a mirrored set of equipment, and they can actually do their practical application stuff here on site too. So we're really excited about that opportunity. Again, getting the word out there on that program and how it all connects together is something that we're working on too. So with your help,
Gotcha.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to make sure there's notes on that as well. So the in the notes section, I'll make sure that we've got some information about how to find you online. Is there something I'm assuming there's something on your website that shows that program?
Not yet, because we're still trying to solidify our actual start date.
Gotcha.
So until that happens, we won't have any literature or anything online.
Very cool.
But
Okay.
but keep an eye
Coming
on OD
soon.
Greens. Yeah, coming soon. Yeah, it'll be up there hopefully within the next month or two.
Wonderful. So your website information, everything will be in the notes,
Mhm.
and especially again those networking opportunities for other counseling professionals that are working with people like you
Yep.
around the country and within the state of Ohio. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today, Don, and I can't wait to see the feedback from people that view this video.
Yeah.
Um, I
And
hope you have a
likewise,
great.
man, I
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time to do this. You know, again, putting optics on this, getting the story out, and hopefully a lot of people see this and ask good questions. So contact
Certainly.
me. All my contact information is on my website too.
Yep.
Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, whatever.
Perfect. All right, sir. Well, we're gonna keep chatting for a few minutes after I stop
Sounds
the
good.
recording here, but I hope everybody has a great weekend and look forward to sharing some more of this goodness with the world here.